Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Long week as always, and it's great to see hopefully we get some people in, but it's great to see that everybody's taking advantage of watching these videos and getting on board, and yeah, really good. So in this week's newsletter, we talked about Father's Day. So that's what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about Father's Day and the opportunity to reflect on your program, to reflect on your services practices and what that means. So we're going to be unpacking just a couple of little perspectives as we go. You'll see I'm in the middle of changing around my office. So I started that yesterday, and I'm just waiting on a desk to be moved from one room to the other, and then my office will be updated. So that's very exciting for me. I love moving my office around and getting resettled and all those sorts of things. Okay, so the JPS YouTube channel. So we're here today. The JPS YouTube channel is really designed for educators, just to support you guys. You guys do a wonderful job with the children, and I know that you know how to deliver your educational program. And if ever you've got any questions, please feel free to jot them in here, and I can explain something a little bit more in relation to the national standards or the legislation in relation to any questions. But there are a number of videos on this channel that you can go through. So this is predominantly for family daycare educators, although I always do suggest that coordinators are aware of this channel and aware of the videos that are on this channel. So if they do need to provide any additional support to educators, they can access this and forward the videos on. And that can be part of either an induction or a training program or whatever that is for each individual. So more than happy to keep on doing this. So make sure you subscribe so that we can keep on bringing you these live videos and where we're at. With the lives, I often will cover off one or two top questions that I've received through the week now, which is why it has brought us to Father's Day and family daycare this week, because that is the prime conversation that we've been talking about all week. Around what can we do? Where do we go with this? We did this last year. I end up doing it all by myself. Nobody else is helping me. All those sorts of things. But I suppose the question that sort of stopped me in my tracks, I suppose, the most this week was a question around what can we do for the babies as a gift to give to their fathers for Father's Day. And it sort of got me thinking around a whole range of things. And questions are really useful. So if you're in a reflective meeting with your colleagues, if you meet with, your networking team every week, month, whatever that is, those questions that come out during those conversations or meetings or reflective activities or whatever group you're in, they're really poignant to where individuals may be at, what they're thinking, what their process is, and that's an opportunity to really open up some further questions. And further questions obviously lead to improved practices. They lead to more reflective activities. So they probably unpack it a little bit more for individuals. So we're going to unpack a little bit today around Father's Day. Now, in the newsletter this week, I told a story about when I first started. So when I first started straight from high school, it was different way back then. I'm talking 30 years ago also, so it was different way back then. So when I started, I absolutely fell in love, and I knew that this was going to be my career for a really long time. And my career my jobs have looked very different over the years. And I moved into management, and then I moved into regional management, and then I moved into advising, and I've been a governance and leadership advisor now for close to 16 years. So coming up through the ranks, there was a lot of consistencies that I saw, and being a leadership advisor, when I go into services and work on their quality improvement plan or work on their programs with them or whatever it is that I do, I see consistencies across the sector. I see consistencies even across the service type. So some of the questions that family daycare educators ask, they are the same questions that are asked by educators working in centre-based services. So we know that there are consistencies across the sector, and some of those consistencies obviously are your celebrations and what you are going to celebrate. Most educators will celebrate at some level family daycare, Father's Day. So we know that Father's Day, Mother's Day, they are probably one of the consistent celebrations across service types and each educator. Every educator celebrates different things, and it may be related to to their culture or the culture of the children that they have. So we see a range of celebrations, which is great to see, but we see these consistent celebrations: Father's Day, Mother's Day, birthdays, Christmas, Chinese New Year. So we see a lot of consistent celebrations. So I want to talk a little bit today about Father's Day and what that looks like. And when I first started, and it was an expectation that we provide a gift to the fathers, that or the mothers. So there was an expectation that we did that. And in my first year, it was my brainwave this year. Oh, what are we going to do this year? And it was my brainwave. Oh, I know, we'll do little terracotta pot plants. And oh, thank you, Linda. I knew you would like it. I was going to unveil it for you on Monday. So I made these little terracotta pot plants, and, I did a nice little painting on them, and then I had the children come and contribute. Now, you've got to remember, not only was this 30 years ago, I really didn't have the early childhood skills that I have now. So I was saying to the children, like, Henrietta, come and paint this. You've got to do this for Dad. And so there was some encouragement, but, there was a little bit of pressure put on the children to make sure that they contributed to that activity so that we could give that. Things like in the background checklist, did such and such have one, did such and such have one, did such and such have one. So in that room, I think it was a 35-place room or a 30-place room or something along those lines back in those days. And obviously with all the part-timers, that was a lot of terracotta pots that I had to get out. And then I did the cards and I did this. So there was this whole project for the Father's Day gifts that were done by that service every year. So it was a massive task, and I was underskilled at the time also. But then moving on through the years, I've seen a lot of centres and services and educators work on Father's Day gifts and what that looks like. I've seen laminated ties with a poem on it. I've seen photo frames. I've seen educators line children up. Right, you all have to do a handprint. Everybody has to do a handprint, whether the child wanted to do a handprint or not. So I've seen those practices consistently throughout the years. So this is a really good time, and we are in a time in our professional development, in our personal development, to challenge questions why things are the way that they are. And I often say, when I talk about why things are the way that they are, why is it that historically women have been the homemakers? And we're really challenging those concepts now. So now is the time to ask yourself some of these questions around why you do what you do. Some of it may be media driven, some of it may be driven from your own family experience and your own upbringing. Some of it may be pushed on you by the service leaders or the approved providers. So there's a number of reasons why you do what you do. Just a reminder, I hope you got your coffee today while we're here. So there is a number of reasons why we do what we do. So when we enter into a reflective way of thinking, or we enter into a reflective activity, or we enter into a reflective meeting, we've really got to think about why we do what we do. So one of the questions, I remember learning this many years ago when I think it was when I started teaching, who is advantaged by that decision and who is disadvantaged by that decision? And that question, when you apply that question to many of your practices, not only Father's Day, when you apply that to your practices, that's the one that really helps build your empathy and build your perspective of other people. So I think that's an invaluable question. It's not the only question you ask, obviously, but it's a really important question to be asking when you are reflecting on why you do what you do. So when we talk about Father's Day, and we put it in that context of the educator taking on the role to make sure that all fathers have a gift, and there is this big hype around Father's Day, and Father's Day, we love our dads, and we da. So what is it that you're teaching children? Now, if we look at it from the child's perspective, there's a couple of things we can touch on with the child's perspective. Do they really want to engage in that activity, firstly? So by making the child contribute to the terracotta pot, did the child really want to do that? Could I have, as an educator, I know I could have now that I know what I know, but I could have engaged those children at a different level and spoken to them about their father and what a father is. And the child may have come up with their own suggestion for a gift rather than me putting it onto that terracotta pot and saying everybody's got to have the same terracotta pot. So now that I look back on that, that really wasn't best practice. And, of course, I've got to be kind to myself because I was young, I was inexperienced, I wasn't trained at all back then. So what is the child's perspective? And if you unpack that a little bit further and you are being the main contributor to the gift that you're developing or the gift that you're producing for the child, then, what message is that sending? Is that sending a message that the child doesn't feel that their gift is good enough and their gift may just want to be a drawing, or their gift may be, I want to show this building that I've made with the blocks to my dad and how you can produce that as a gift, with a photo, whatever that is. So what is the child? What are we teaching the child with that? What are we teaching the child about gift giving? Me personally, like, I'm a bit of a terrible gift giver anyway, but I like to give sentimental gifts. So, a letter from me as an individual would mean so much more than if I went and purchased something or did that. So what are we teaching children about gift giving also? Does gift giving have to have a dollar value on it? Does gift giving have to be only on special days? Does gift giving, if it is Father's Day, does the child have to give a gift to their father? Do they need to give a gift to their grandfather, to their stepfather? What does that look like for individual children? We know that not all children have a father figure present in their life, and that may not be their biological father. It may be an uncle. It may even be an aunt that plays a special role in their life. So we know that families don't fit those stereotypes that we were raised with also. So what are you teaching the child is really the point. So I want you to think about some of the ways that you handle your Father's Day gifts and what that looks like for you, and what that big picture, what that message is that you're sending children. And I do also say in the newsletter, when I was growing up and we celebrated Mother's Day and all the books were around that gender stereotype of what a mother is, and a mother is loving and a mother is caring and a mother does everything. And, when I grew up, that's the image that we received from mothers, whereas my mother was very different to that. So my mother never fit that stereotype, which was really unfair. And it's still unfair for children now, because in children that can sort of bring out different feelings that it's not meant to be. So for me, that raised for me that, my mother doesn't fit the stereotype mother. And, maybe my mother's not, is like other mothers. Maybe other mothers are all like Doris Day or, from the Partridge Family or all those sorts of things. So it did probably instill an ideal in me of what mothers should be. And I think that we have an opportunity to break those stereotypes, to challenge the media, to challenge the messages that we're sending ourselves. So now's a really good time to do that. So then let's move on to what is the parent's perspective. So if we're putting this not even unapproachable, unrelatable image of what a mother is to children in our teachings, and that child doesn't share that experience, then that can be confusing for children. So we don't want to do that. We are in a time where we do try and meet children's needs all the time, and we do meet their abilities, and we do try to engage the family, and we try to show different perspectives, and we try to show different role models, and we try to show different family dynamics, and that not everybody's family looks the same, or those sorts of things. So then we look at the parent's perspective. Now, doing what I do and doing what I've done, I really know that working with children does bring its challenges. We have children with behaviours that we're managing. You could be in the middle of making lunch, and you've got a 4-year-old that gives a 2-year-old something that they shouldn't have. So you've got to go over and, no, that child can't have that. So you've got to deal with that. And then you've got to go back to your lunch, and somebody else, I need to go to the bathroom. So we know that there are lots of demands on educators working with children. And we say it all the time. The media says it all the time. We know that being family daycare educators in general, we know that being educators in general, it actually is a tough gig, and our mind goes in all sorts of places. We've literally got eyes in the back of our head. We're all over everything at the same time. So it can be a challenging job. Now, if you look at that message that's out there that we do have a tough job and we can make our life a lot easier, don't get me wrong, and that's one of the reasons why I have this channel, is to try and help everybody make their life a little bit more easier and make their role, their job, their family daycare program more enjoyable. So that's part of the purpose of this channel too. But if we look at the perspective of the families and the role that we play in early childhood, and the expectation on us as educators in providing a childcare service for families from our home, and then all of a sudden we turn up on on Father's Day with this elaborate gift, then families can do one of a number of things. If we look at it from their perspective, families can think things like, wow, that's a fabulous gift. I love this gift, but I know my child didn't make this gift. So therefore the educator made this gift. The educator has, 12 children over the course of the week. So that's 12 of these elaborate gifts that this educator had to make. By making 12 of these, that's a lot of hours that the educator has put into this. As a parent, the first question that often comes to mind in that situation is, if the educator is doing all of this, then who's watching the children? And it's a really important question to ask. And that's, kind of a predictable question that parents can ask. So, and you may have done it at night time when all the children have gone home, which most likely you have. So you've spent all of these hours of your own time making this gift, but it may raise a different reaction than what you were expecting. So you've got to be mindful of that. The other thing that sometimes that can raise in families is, wow, this is a wonderful gift. I love it and I will treasure it forever. This educator is so fantastic. But now I feel the pressure to reciprocate that appreciation. And what does that look like for families? And families often, and I know I was one of those parents, I wasn't the type to make the educator a gift and bring it back. So therefore, I would need to buy a gift. How much do I spend on the educator? What do I buy that's appropriate? How do I adequately repay the educator for all the wonderful work that they do for my child? I do appreciate what they do, but what does that now look like from me? So it can put a sense of obligation on families. It just does. And so you've got to be mindful of that perspective also. There are parents that also go, this is a wonderful gift. Thank you so much, educator. This is really good. I really like it. But they know because you made it and not their child made it, then it doesn't come, they don't appreciate it as much as if it were a photo of, say, like a block building that a child had made, or a road that a child had made, and you present that to Father's Day. So there's a number of perspectives that come from children, from families, from your colleagues. I often see in family daycare, in all service types and in all educators, in fact, there becomes a competition as to who can get the better gift. And, this year I'm doing this, and I did that last year, so I'm not going to do that again, and I'm going to do this. And this year I've got this great idea, and this year I'm going to do this. So there is that level of competition that can raise the bar on what gift giving looks like and what children are expected to produce at particular celebratory days. So there is that also with your colleagues. But the main thing that I want educators to understand when they are celebrating Father's Day, Mother's Day, birthdays even, is actually there's a couple of things I need you to understand, I would like you to understand and think about for yourself, is what pressure are you putting on yourself? You do have a busy job, and how many of you, especially in family daycare, work long hours way after the children have gone. So you've spent all day with the children, and then you've got your administrative tasks to take care of, you've got your preparation for tomorrow to take care of, you've got your documentation to still do. So you've got all of these out of hours work that many of you don't get paid for because you don't put that into your budget and your costing and your rates and those sorts of things. So not only are you working all of these additional hours outside of delivering your educational program to the children, you're not getting paid for them. You're making gifts for families that may or may not hit the mark with the family that you have. Some may appreciate it, some may not, some may raise concerns in some. So it really does again depend on your families, and you're putting this additional workload on yourself. And that's where often we see by the end of the year, like, you guys get burnt out so much. So many of you get burnt out by the end. And then you look at your bottom line and you go, well, I didn't make the money that I thought I was going to make. This is just simply covering costs. So depending on your celebrations, depending on your gift giving philosophy, depending on what your families, depending on a whole range of factors, in fact, how does that affect your costing? And often when I speak with educators about either planning their budget or managing their budget, it's celebrations that are missed out in the budget. So you've got this ongoing art and craft budget that you've set for the children that you've got in care with you, and then but you haven't catered for those 3, 4, 5, sometimes more days that you celebrate, that you do something additional in the program for those days. Present a gift at the end of your Father's Day program. So that might be like a 2-week program, and then you present a gift at the end of that program. So you may do that. So if that's not in your budget and in your costings, then at the end of the year, when you've had 4, 5, even more celebrations, that's money that's not accounted for. So depending on your gift giving, depending on the elaborateness of it, including your time to produce those gifts, that is potentially and most likely lost money because you haven't accounted for that. So this is a really good opportunity to sit back, think about why you do what you do. What are the costs involved? How will your parents potentially see this? How do you protect yourself from parents either not appreciating what you do, or parents being concerned that if you are making these gifts, then there must be some kind of there must be some kind of downside to that, which they automatically think is the safety and supervision of their own child. And then, of course, I'm sure that they're wrong and you're doing it on your own time, but it does raise that question. So this is a really good time. Jot down. Now, I say it all the time to you guys, have a reflective journal. Jot some of these questions down while you're off doing what you're doing. You might be working in the garden, going for a walk, going for a country drive, maybe sitting out in the sun, and just think about why it is you do what you do. What is it about Father's Day that you can celebrate that makes it cost effective, that makes it easier for you to do, that is more genuine to the families rather than a gift that everybody gets, which is exactly the same. You've got to think of that from a fairness and equity perspective. So what is it that you're doing for Father's Day? And if you've got everything planned, this is a great opportunity to implement what you've got planned and then reflect on that over the next couple of months, so that by the time we come back around to the next celebration, whether that be Mother's Day or whether that be Christmas, you've got a really good handle on how you do your celebrations from all of these perspectives that we've spoken about today, but especially from a budgeting perspective, because you are business owners, you are working from your own home, you do need to make this a viable business. So how does that affect it? And it now might be a good time to reflect on your budget too, and think about, what, I have been not accounting for this $100, $200, $400, whatever that is per annum. That's $400-$500 that I haven't included in my budget. So how can I do that? And if you do need to increase your budget, then you've got to review your rates and have a speak with your service provider if that's the case. So so I'll pop some links in here for a little bit further information for you. So happy reflecting, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm here in Victoria and the sun is shining today and spring is definitely springing. So that's really good. So hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will be back in the office on Monday. So hopefully you guys will enjoy your couple of days off the same way that I'm planning to. I'll talk to you soon. Make sure you click on the links, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you share these little training videos, these little information videos around to your networks, because it will help inform your practice, and it will help inform your business knowledge, and it will help you be more viable in the long run, more sought after in the long run. So that is the goal of this channel. So have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you next Saturday at 11 o'clock. And next Saturday we are doing, what are we doing next Saturday? Induction. So a lot of what I say so I work with service providers, as many of you may know. A lot of what I say to service providers, the principles that I tell them around certain things like induction, if you know that, then that's good for you on a number of levels, including if ever you need an educator assistant, or if ever you go to a new service provider, what you can expect from an induction perspective. And if you've got aspirations to move forward, that it'll build your skills and knowledge if you move into a leadership position or you become an approved provider yourself maybe in the future. So make sure you jump on and learn the principles of inducting new staff. That's what we're talking about next Saturday. So I'll see you there. Have a great week, everybody. See ya. Bye.